Hello everyone, I'm back after back after a little bit of a break. For those of you that don't follow me on my various social media platforms or aren't in the Discord, you might have been wondering, Reno, it's been about 4.5 days. Why haven't you uploaded a video? Well, I was a little busy. I was getting married, and I'm very thankful to be in the position that I'm in where I can make videos and provide content, and I'm thankful that I have a community that cares about me when I go on small absences. I'm thankful for all the support that we have, and I'm thankful that I was able to take a short break off and just focus on life, because it's important for everyone to sometimes take a second and realize what's important. These videos are going to keep on coming, but I'm glad I had a little bit of a break. I'm thankful that you're all here, and today we are talking about a California man who was arrested in possession of a short-barreled rifle, a ghost gun, in the form of a FGC9, which we'll talk about in just a minute. This happened in Fresno, California, and there's kind of some complex things to talk about when it comes to the sheriff's department and this actual situation. A lot of people for a long time have asked me questions about the whole fishing exemptions and carrying guns, homemade firearms, and we're going to kind of touch on all of those things today. So it's going to be a pretty big topic, even though it might seem like a fairly simple situation. There's going to be some information that you might want to learn from this, some things we can take as an example of what you might not want to do and what you might want to do. But keep in mind, I'm not a lawyer. This isn't legal advice. I'm just kind of looking at a situation and commenting on it. Before we get going though, I do really want to say thank you to the sponsor of today's video. It is Arms List. For those of you that are unaware of what Arms List is, it's kind of like Craigslist, but for guns. If you're looking to get rid of something or looking to acquire something, especially if you're in the state of California, you're probably familiar with Arms List, and if you're not, it's a great way for you to buy or sell or get rid of your firearms that you may not want, or search for a firearm that you might want to look and are hunting for. Especially in the state of California, if you are looking for your off-roster unicorns, this is definitely where you're going to want to check it out, and I'm thankful that I've had Arms List support on this video. I have sold a variety of firearms on Arms List, some of them to people who might actually be watching this video, which is kind of funny since we first met through Arms List and now you're seeing me do an Arms List ad read. So yeah, Arms List, probably the best place, especially when you want to get rid of your firearms accessories, because most places aren't going to allow you to put that on their site. But thank you again to Arms List. So the topic of today's video that I wanted to talk about came from the Fresno County Sheriff's Department office. Now, Fresno County Sheriff's deputies have arrested a 29-year-old named Michael Barner of Fresno. He has been booked into the Fresno County Jail on felony charges of illegally carrying a loaded firearm and large capacity magazines. His bail is set at $200,000. Now it's interesting, there may be more information that we might not know of as of yet, but it seems like he is only being booked on the unlawful carrying and possession of a firearm, which is interesting because they're not saying that they are booking him for anything else, they're just saying that it's the possession of a firearm. So this video will be in the playlist Cops Enforcing Gun Control. So if you want to check that playlist out, feel free to do so. At 12:30 a.m. Thursday, a deputy saw Barner riding a bicycle in an unsafe manner near Palm and Ashland Avenues in Fresno. The deputy contacted Barner, which is this person here, who was carrying a backpack. Barner told the deputies he was returning from a day of fishing at the river. The deputies searched Barner's backpack and discovered a gun known as the FGC9 short-barreled carbine rifle. This firearm is a well-known homemade model. It contained a large capacity magazine with 6 9mm rounds in it. The deputy arrested Barner on firearms charges. So, they're commenting on the fact that he was in possession of a short-barreled carbine rifle, which this is technically under the definition of a short-barreled rifle because it has a stock which appears to be printed, which I'm actually curious about how well those printed stocks work. For those of you that have used a printed stock, I'd love to hear how they work. It'd be an interesting thing to try to print for myself. Got a pistol grip that's skeletonized, and then what appears to be an ETS magazine and a 3D printed magazine extension. So that's pretty interesting to see. And then I love how they comment on the fact that he's in possession of a large capacity magazine, which was loaded to 6 rounds. You know, this is clearly a very dangerous person. You know, we really got to look out for him, even though the only crime he was being charged with was firearms possession. Yeah, doesn't seem like he was all that dangerous. So good job, Fresno County. Now, It's kind of interesting to see. This is a pretty young guy. He's 29. I'm 27. This is just a person that was maybe going fishing. Now, maybe he was lying, but who cares? Did they have any reason to believe that he was a danger to himself or others? Well, he was riding his bike in an unsafe manner. Okay, so maybe you're riding your bike in the street. There's a whole lot going on here. I'm curious as to what allowed them to search the backpack. Now, I know that police in some instances are allowed to pat someone down for a weapon, and they are allowed for officer safety. I would love to hear more people talk about the nuances of that. So if you're a lawyer and you have more information, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that, because I was under the impression that a backpack wasn't necessarily considered part of your person when they go to do those, I think it's called a Terry stop, where they pat you down to see if you have any weapons on you when they're going to be doing some sort of interaction with you. I'm curious how they actually gained the ability, or if he allowed them to search his backpack. I'm very interested to see how this went down. I'm sure there might have been some sort of coercion where they're saying, hey, we're going to book you for reckless driving, you're going to get a DUI. But then if you know that you have something like that in your backpack, are you likely to, show them your backpack? I don't know. I'm very interested in how. I'd love to hear more information about this, but this was posted on August 5th and it's the 8th. It's unlikely that we'll see more information for a little while. Now, we then look at the comments and they said, it looks like this post got shared to a listserv around the country. For those not familiar with our office, we support the Second Amendment for law-abiding citizens. This case was one of illegal possession of a firearm. This is a complex topic, and I'll touch on that in just a second, but I think the big thing that I want to talk about was how when he said he was fishing. Now, many people in the state of California might be aware of a very viral video discussing the loophole of carrying an unloaded firearm in various contexts when you're returning to or during a fishing trip. And a lot of people think that you can kind of just get by with carrying one of those little pocket fishing poles. And now here's the thing. I want to clarify this. I am not saying that I think you should follow all the laws. I am not saying that I think you should break laws. I am just saying many people believe that simply carrying a little fishing pole around with them will allow them to legally get out of any trouble when it comes to carrying firearms in certain conditions. I am of the opinion, and I'm not a legal opinion, I am of the opinion that that might get some people out of trouble. However, I think that most cops don't really know the specifics about those laws, and it's very likely to get you into some sort of interaction with the police. And that's something that you don't want. And I think some people would say it might be worth just trying to avoid police contact altogether. Some people would choose to carry a gun against the law and not follow the law, not hurt anyone, and just risk it. I think many people would do that. And I think that many people also think, oh, if I just carry around this little pocket fishing pole, that'll be my get out of jail free card. I'm not so confident in that. I think that the police don't always know the law. And the reason I say that is because as someone who's worked in a gun store in the state of California, I had multiple times where police officers would call me, ask about a specific firearm that they booked someone with or that they stopped someone with, and said, hey, we got this gun, it's in this configuration, it's got these things on it, is it legal? And now my answer would always be yes, because if you're asking me, it means you don't know the law, and you probably shouldn't be policing people if you don't know what is and isn't legal. But again, that's my opinion. If they were doing something that was actually bad, like if this person was beating their wife, or if this person was injecting heroin into little kids, you would have enough to arrest them on those charges. If the reason you're trying to book them is solely on the firearm, you probably don't have enough, and they should probably just be let go. So again, cops don't always know the laws, especially when it comes to niche specific laws like this. Could this person have been lying about returning from a fishing trip? Maybe. I personally don't really care. I don't think that anything he did here that was given in the context of these two paragraphs was bad. He was in possession of a firearm that he made for himself, and he didn't hurt anyone. They had no reason to believe that he was actually harming or attempting to harm anyone. And he's in possession of a magazine, which is currently legal for most people to possess if they acquired them legally during Freedom Week or prior to any sort of bans. And it's only loaded with 6 rounds. So what's the point? Now, then I want to talk about this comment from the Fresno PD. For those of you that don't know, we in the state of California have what are referred to as May issue CCW, meaning that the county sheriff or your local police department can determine whether or not they will give you a CCW based on good cause and if you have good moral character. There's some other requirements that you may have to go through, but it's up to the county sheriff typically to determine who does and who doesn't get to exercise their right to keep and bear arms. Now, many people bring up the topic of, if you have to ask permission, is it a right? I'd say that's a great question to ask. Now, specifically, Fresno County is one of the counties where if you have a pulse and a clean criminal history and you own a gun, you can legally carry simply by going through the motions and getting your CCW. And I think they generally do respect many aspects of the Second Amendment. However, I think this is a very clear moment where this guy, from the context that they've given, has not done anything truly wrong, and his whole life is ruined. He's in possession of a 10-year federal felony. He's in possession of a ghost gun in the state of California. He's in possession of what was likely a unlawfully possessed or unlawfully manufactured high-capacity magazine in the state of California. So this guy's life at the age of 29 is likely ruined. He's bare minimum going to spend a few years in jail when they're going to let out all the actual violent people due to the ongoing coof epidemic. But this guy is most likely going to serve several years because he wanted to have the means to protect himself. Now, if we find out later that this guy was fleeing the scene of a crime where he murdered someone, I think the context would be a lot different in this situation. But the context that we've been given is that this guy was simply riding his bike in an unsafe manner and was in possession of a firearm that the government didn't want him to have. Does that seem like something that should ruin someone's entire life for? I don't think so. So for the Fresno County Sheriff's Department to say, yeah, we support the Second Amendment for law-abiding citizens, the Second Amendment was not written for law-abiding citizens. The Second Amendment was written to acknowledge the rights of the people to not have to listen to the government tell them what sort of arms, outside of just firearms, that they can own. The Second Amendment was actually, in theory, written to allow the unlawful gun owners to do what was right to do. It was not meant so that people making firearms in the comfort of their own home or making a homemade firearm, which was how basically all the firearms were made back in a certain point in time, so that they could do so, and so they could have the means to protect themselves from others or from a body of power like the government. The freedom of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. We have to understand that this guy didn't hurt anyone, but he is being now harmed by the government, most likely for the rest of his life. He's never going to be able to own a firearm again. He's most likely going to spend a few years in jail, which will likely gravely affect his ability to get a job when he gets out, which is then going to make it more likely for him to have to resort to crime in order to survive, which is going to make it more likely for him to go to jail, and it goes on and on. Now, I'm not saying that people can't leave jail and become successful members of society. What I'm saying is the government has now decided to stack the deck against him and potentially manufacture a dangerous person by getting them caught up in the system because they weren't actually hurting anyone. Let me know what you guys think down below. You guys know the drill. Have fun, be safe, stay dangerous. Peace.